são 9 horas da manhã, eu tô exausta, minha voz. E super cansada, mas a gente não veio hoje pra CCXP direto. A gente veio pra coletiva do True Deetective, com Jodie Foster. Vou mostrar pra vocês daqui a pouquinho tudo que eu consegui, tá? Embaixo, porque tá vazio aqui ainda, deixa eu ver se provavelmente vai ser aqui nesse... Vou mostrar pra vocês.
Ser convidada para a coletiva de imprensa de True Detective Terra Noturna foi um sonho, ainda mais ver Jodie Foster de perto. Eu sabia que eu não podia fazer nenhuma pergunta, tinha sido enviado algumas perguntas escolhidas e não poderia tirar foto, mas mesmo assim foi uma delícia participar desse momento.
Foster e Kali Reis para falar com vocês sobre a série.
Hi everyone, buenos dias.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So to start off this special conversation, we've received some questions from you guys. So if you're here at the audience, please raise your hand. And so the talents can see you guys. So this first question is from Luisa Vilela Izami. She's not here, I know already. This is the first season of True Detective. Is Terra directed, produced, and written by more women. So how does it feel to act alongside Kali Reis while being directed by Issa López? And what implications or impacts did their performance have on you as an actress and fellow director? It's for Jodie, but you all can answer.
I thought it was for you.
Yeah, it's for...
Is this an invitation to act with me? You go.
Can you say that again? I was like, oh, this one's for Issa. I don't have to listen.
So,
The impact of women.
yes, and what did the performance have on you as an actress and fellow director? Working with it.
Well, we're all excited that there's more women in Hollywood. When I was growing up making films, from the 60s on, there were no women. So there was just like whoever the lady was that was playing my mom and possibly a makeup artist or a script supervisor. And little by little there become more technicians. And the last bastion was the most important, of course, female directors. There were virtually no female directors when I was coming up, probably into my 30s. I can name them maybe on one hand. There always had been in Europe and in other countries, but for some reason, for America, for mainstream filmmaking, there really were almost no women. So I grew up thinking that I couldn't be a film director because I didn't see any women, and then eventually my mom kept telling me, she's like, you have to write. They'll never let you direct unless you write. And I thought, well, I don't really write. And it turns out that, the women that came up, the few women that came up, helped other women to come up. And there's, been great strides made in that now. And now I think the most exciting movies of the year are all directed by women. So, yes, we like that. And we're glad that HBO is at the forefront of being interested in new voices, different stories, centering women's experiences in ways that hasn't happened before.
Would you like to comment on that? Yes.
I will second. Fuck yes. I grew up in Mexico, and we did have a legendary Mexican film director in the 40s, Matilde Landeta. But that was it. It was the legend of Matilde Landeta. And then in the 70s, we did have Marcela Fernandez and a couple of Mexican, but it was, I will say, one in a generation, So I'm old enough to be at the forefront of the start of women taking over. And I have to say, we're seeing it in Hollywood. We're seeing it in Latin America. The best movies that Mexico is sending out into the world, and many of the Latin Americans are directed by women. And it's bound to be that a voice that hasn't been heard forever has really interesting things to say. And we're seeing the effect of that.
Yeah, and this is one is for you, Issa. It's from Gabriel Avila, Jovem Nerd. I believe he's here. There.
Hi, Gabriel.
The other seasons have drawn on different inspirations such as anime and even comic book. So what are the main ones for Night Country?
The other seasons were inspired by anime.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, Gabriel, you have to tell me that. And I'm jealous. Well, here's what happened. When I got the call about True Detective, I sat down and watched it again. I hadn't seen it since it came out on TV, and I watched it week by week, like probably most of us loved it. And I saw it again, and I started to do it with a clinical eye, not as an audience. And I did see immediately a lot of influence, and I don't know if Nipi Solato did it consciously or not, but there's a lot of Seven in that first season. I love Seven. I think we all do. Yes. And Seven immediately took me back to the movie that made Seven, which I believe is The Silence of the Lambs, another movie that created a whole genre. And I decided to lean very hard on those two, like very, very hard. But I knew that it was central to bring something new to it, which we will surely get into all of what's new. Other than that, my personal geekness was impossible to stop, but there's a lot of John Carpenter's The Thing. There are homages to The Shining in the way we shot the Arctic Research Station. It's a little bit all over the place and a lot of different flavors in a very Mexican cooking kind of way.
That's good. This one is for Jodie. It's from Maria Najar, IGN Brasil. She's here. Okay. So True Detective is a series that draws heavily from the genre. Even so, you managed to be remembered for different character styles. How would you describe your character, Liz Danvers?
Let's see.
Tell the truth.
Well, I love Liz Danvers. Love this character because she's honest, and that means that she's also an asshole a lot of the time. She is not awake. I think she's quite unconscious of her own motivations. She doesn't know how she affects people. She thinks things are funny that aren't funny, yeah, I just love her. She's let's see. I mean, she's in one way. You can tell that she really cares about some of the people in the film. Am I allowed to? No, we're not. Am I allowed to say what it's about and all that? Well, we have a trailer, so I guess people know that.
Just a tiny bit.
Just a tiny bit. So, she has love in her heart, and the world has changed in ways that she doesn't understand, and she's having to keep up with, I think, like all of us. But honestly, for me, and the most interesting part of making the movie was to support a new voice, which is Kaylee's character in the film, Navarro's character. And I think even when we first started talking about the series with Issa, we sort of, I feel like I reverse engineered Liz Danvers, where we were like, okay, well, what is Navarro gonna do? Let's make Liz do the opposite. And we kind of reversed it so that really the voice of the film is Kaylee's character, Trooper Navarro. I call her Trooper Navarro a lot in the film as well.
And this one is for Kaylee. From Marcel Botelho. Are you here? Yes. Here.
Now finding and brilliant casting. I think that's what that first season did so well. And the biggest part of the challenge, other than a little plot, who cares about the plot? It's fun. But it's the characters. Is finding the people to play them and the chemistry between them. And the moment that you see them together, you really want to see the series, And finding, getting Jodie to revisit a detective, and then trying to understand who is going to amp that and make it into True Detective, because without that Navarro, it would have never happened. So it's honestly I found them, and then it was like, that's on you. So,
you know, I guess I did. I agree with everything that Issa said, so I'd really just like to let her go with it. But I did, while I was doing Silence of the Lambs, I did feel like I had an understanding that that plots are really just excuses for characters to reveal themselves to each other and to themselves. They're excuses for this kind of intimacy between people. And how their own psyches are the point of the film. I guess that's what this particular genre is. It's, you know, the reason that you find the killer is that you immerse yourself in the loves, the loss, the beauty, the disappointments of these characters, to the point that to the people that are gone. That's what these detectives do, is that they immerse themselves, that they become one with either the killer or the people who are killed. So it's through that understanding of their world that they come to an understanding of themselves, and that's really, you know, the whole point of the genre, I think. And I guess I haven't been as excited about something since Silence of the Lambs as I am about True Detective. I feel like I don't want to say we stumbled, because we didn't stumble. It was all very intentional. It was all in Issa López's head. But there were so many truths that were able to be uncovered through the process of understanding this film that it's felt like one of the richest experiences of my life.
you have to say that
I'm
it
going
was.
to.
Yeah.
What they said. I second everything that was said. No, I mean, being a fan of the True Detective series and some kind of the unpredictability of something like a True Detective, and then you have these individuals that have this deep pool of just stuff that you don't even know. It's very unpredictable. On the surface, they can look like a well put together, very good detective. You have one that's maybe, you know, more detective than the other one's a little loose cannon, but then you take those two personalities and you have this amazing chemistry that just works. It probably wouldn't work in a friendship, but it works. But it's like a bad relationship that just works, and when it doesn't, it does, but when it does, it really, really works. And just that, mix that and kind of the dance of the unpredictability of, like you said, the plot is there, but then you have these two very, very deep characters with their own, you know, their own lives that have to put it aside almost to solve this crime, but they can't help but to be immersed in each other's lives, to have that balance in that vision, to have that common goal. So I just think that whole that theme is just, it's really attractive and it's intriguing, and you want to know, you think you know, and you probably do, but the way it's presented is so unpredictable.
Thank you. And this one is for Issa. It's from Sergio Villamizar from Colprensa, Colombia. Is the form or production style of True Detective different from other series?
From other series in TV or from other series in True Detective, which is...
I think you can comment on both. Yes.
Well, it is... Here's the thing about jumping into a certain genre. It has rules, you know, and I sadly had to write a lot of romantic comedies in my life. Do not watch those. But it has rules, you know. There are rules in romantic comedy. And by the way, this is a romantic comedy because apparently it's all I know what to do. So it is a love story of true friendship between two women that hate each other but love each other, and they only come together to find that. So the rule in romantic comedy is they meet, they find each other again. The rule of genre is pretty much the same, you know. It's unsolvable mystery that weirdly enough is solvable, and in the way we're going to learn things about the characters. In that frame, you have to do something that feels like a thing you've never seen before. And it's tricky So you go into, oh, we're going to have the disenchanted detective in a small town. It's been done. We're going to have the badass who actually has a huge heart. It's been done. So how are we going to make that into something you haven't seen before? And it's all in the details. It's all in how you shoot it, where you shoot it, how you constructed those layers, how deep you go with your work, with your actors, with the work in the script. So it's similar to many series. It's different to many series. And the True Detective itself, it also has its rules. HBO beautifully gave me absolute freedom into which ones I wanted to keep. But it deals with the past, a case in the past. It deals with a case in the present. It's two characters. It's, there's at least, and I decided to go with it, a couple of moments where they're in a car discussing the nature of the universe and life. So I took certain things and very much went with them to make this series.
Thank you. And this one is from Marina Bonini, the King. She's right there. Is to Jodie and Kali. What was the most difficult moment while filming the 4th season? Were there any hardships, perhaps the cold, that made you ask for a break from shooting or even force you to stop?
Wow, where do I start? No, it was, the easiest thing was just being so comfortable having such a wonderful counterpart and learning so much and just making me feel comfortable to take those chances and just do what naturally came with the character. I mean, the cold, it was cold. It was, if it looks cold, it was cold. There's not much acting there, but I would say I guess the biggest challenge was it when things weren't as cold, but we had to be cold. That was the most challenging because there was so many other things to worry about. And then I'd hear Issa, "You're cold!" I'm like, I'm cold. It's probably the most challenging, but like I said, the way the story's written, I didn't have to reach too far to get those things. So that was a pleasure to be.
It was cold. And I mean, especially for Kali. Kali had a lot more exterior scenes than I did, and you had the frozen leg, and you got unlucky. There were some days that were just windy and freezing, and where we all had to leave by midnight because there was a massive storm coming in, and you guys had more of that than I did. For some reason, I got lucky. I feel like there was about 8 or 10 days where I got sick and I lost my voice, and those were the worst days of the film. So I managed to escape those. I think, it's hard. It's sort of like childbirth. I think you forget how difficult it was. And mostly because I love the character so much. I loved working with this team so much. Loved working with Issa, my favorite director I've ever worked with, I think. Which is I've worked with a lot of directors, and some of them not bad. Not bad. And just being with Kali, I mean, from the second that I met Kali, I was just so in love, impressed, full of respect for her power on screen. And it doesn't matter that she's only done it a few times. It's like she has this uncanny ability to just command the screen that you just can't stop watching her. And Navarro is such a peculiar character, so filled with contradictions. This incredible, tough, hothead that could kill you with one punch, and also somebody who is the most sensitive person certainly in the movie. Those are all the reasons why I was there.
Thank you. And this one is from Mario Abner, Reforma, Mexico.
It's very different. So someone who could understand the American side, but understand how to work in Europe emerged, and that was Daniel Taylor. He's emerging and doing, Argyle is coming out, and he did Tetris, and he's genius and lovely to work with. And then for costume design, we had Alex Fauvert, who has done White Lotus with with HBO, a series that also deals with a clash between two cultures. So I think that she was a really good candidate for this. And she did Nope with Peel, and I still think about that sweatshirt. I think we all do. And she worked, both Daniel and her worked hand in hand with the Inuit advisors and the elders from the tribe, and the graphic elements were created by artists in Alaska, and the clothes were brought directly from Alaska. Alex went there and spent almost a month with the people from Alaska, either buying the stuff, but I'm talking from the right jeans and the right shoes to the parkas that are handmade with wolf fur on them. And then some items you cannot make anymore, they're traditional. So the people from these communities gave us to use in the series their ancestral items. And then we had to return them. Very like, here it is, thank you so much. So it was very involved, and we had to find people that could understand the depth of the collaboration. And then Florian Hofmeister, who is the DP of the series, he did Tar before this. I hadn't seen Tar when I gave him the job, and it blew my mind what he did with the photography in that movie. But I had seen The Terror and Pachinko and several things he's done. He knew how to work in the ice, which for me was a big thing. And I talked to many incredible photographers, many of them Latin American, and my heart was like, I'm gonna go with a Latino. But then this German comes along, and his vision and his depth and the understanding of the story and the characters completely gave him the job. I mean, we finished that Zoom and I was like, he's the guy, but he's the guy. And truly not shying away from the dark in the series, but leaning on it. So the dark is present obviously in the exterior light, but inside of the rooms, there's always a part that is completely black. I'm gonna say infect, but it's more like infuses and informs every frame in the show, and that's Florian. So I love these three people. I really, really do, and I think they made me and these women look really good.
And for you too, how was the experience with costume and cinematography?
Amazing. It's just a great team. And a team isn't just people with independent skills, it's how they work together. Our costume was great because it was actually pretty warm. And I was worried about that. I was just like, I don't want it to look good and not be warm, so that was great. But Florian is extraordinary, and Dan, amazing production designer, and Issa's, I mean, they were all lucky to find each other, and we all had a lot of fun. We haven't talked about that yet. We had a lot of fun, which is also part of it. Hard to believe because it was such difficult circumstances, but you know, Reykjavik is a fun town, and we all just really love each other.
Yeah, it was amazing to see what they did with the production. The sets actually felt just like it was uncanny how identical it was. You felt like you were in these houses that needed to prepare for winter, to pack all these products. Like they went, every little thing, like Issa said, was in the detail. And Florian, I love him. I was always Sergeant Navarro every morning, and he just had a way of just like they said, capturing such hard shots. And I don't know the first thing about being a DP, but I know it looks good as an audience member, and even just seeing things that, you know, just playbacks, I'm just like, how do you see that? Like, you know what I mean? So, then the costumes, so authentic. I mean, we had, like Issa said, we had actual uniforms, we had the vest that was made by the people in Alaska for the troopers, like down to the boots and the hats. Everything that they had was so detail oriented that we were in Alaska as far as I'm concerned. So, and we were warm, God bless, because I'm like, I don't want to be the crazy character that doesn't care about the cold. My character cares about the cold. So no, it was on those cold nights, it was very, very lovely. But it was just like I said, we made this town this imaginary town real. Just everything from every eye, from the costume to the costumes to the camera to the set. Everything was real, and this is real in my head.
I have to say that Kaylee was mad at me a lot of the time because I wanted to see her face and her hair, and she was always like, like Kaylee. And I was so, and she was like, I know.
That was the one time I gave you a hard no, and it was like 15 below. I'm like, listen, we're shooting episode 5. I think they know what Navarro looks like. We're good.
But what Jodie is saying, which is perhaps the central piece of what we take away from the series, is what a joy it was to shoot. And I've been talking to the press and to people who have seen the series, and they go, how was it? How was it? And you know what? Yeah, it was tough. Yeah, it was cold. Best experience, best friends, best town, laughing throughout. It was, people say this all the time. This is true. We really have a beautiful time.
But also the gods were with us. I can't tell you how, usually things go wrong in films. And whether it's, your set gets blown down, or you just have 3 days where you can't shoot, or you're out there and the whole thing gets obliterated. And the gods were with us, strangely. And I always say this to Mary Jo. I say it's because we had a tree planting ceremony at the beginning of the film, and I'm taking full credit for this. We had a tree planting ceremony, and we all the actors went up in trucks, and we went to the area where they plant the trees in Iceland, and had hot chocolate and stuff, and we all held hands, and we said different prayers from all of our lives. We had some of us just made up prayers, and to honor our ancestors, and so that we could have a wonderful shoot. And guess what? We did. We didn't have we had really so many things could have gone wrong that didn't go wrong.
We also have mezcal at the end of every week, and I think that was the reason.
I was left out of that on Friday.
Have to make up. Mezcal Friday.
So thank you guys.
Eu sempre divido com vocês esses momentos e como eu me sinto nesses momentos, né? Eu fui como jornalista, então é óbvio que eu segui todas as regras, eu não pedi foto, eu não fiz pergunta, né? Nenhuma interação. Mas o que eu pude ver é que todas as três eram extremamente simpáticas. Jodie Foster é um ícone, né, do cinema, então ela acenou pra plateia, ela ria, ela brincava, ela estava bem à vontade. No momento da finalização da coletiva, foi muito rápido, elas tiraram fotos para os jornalistas e logo saíram por uma porta que a gente não tinha acesso. Então eu não pude gravar nada, nem um tchauzinho, né, nada, nem chegar perto, mas eu estava na primeira fileira, como vocês estão vendo. Então, assim, a gravação para vocês foi... Eu vou pedir para vocês ativarem também, tá, as legendas eletrônicas aí do YouTube, que eu não tive tempo de editar tudo, senão vai ficar tudo atrasado. E vou colocar mais um trechinho da conversa dela. Então ativa aí se você não fala inglês, tá? Para vocês entenderem como é que foi essa conversa bem bacana.
Tell that she really cares about some of the people who film. I guess, am I allowed to? No, we're not. Am I allowed to say what it's about and all that? Well, we have a trailer, so I guess people know that.
Just a tiny bit.
Just a tiny bit. So, she has love in her heart, and the world has changed in ways.
Bom, eu tenho aqui em casa o DVD da primeira temporada. Eu confesso que eu não assisti. Eu não sei se o Gabriel assistiu. A gente comprou junto uma vez, estava numa promoção. Eu sei que cada temporada é uma história. Então eles explicaram que dá para ver separado. E que essa tem um foco muito forte na questão indígena, na questão de terras, né? E nesse mistério. É claro que vocês vão ver aí também umas fotos que eu tirei no banheiro do hotel, porque eu achei tudo muito chique. Gente, esse hotel JW Marriott, eu nem sei qual o valor para se hospedar num local desse, mas eu nunca vi um banheiro tão cheiroso, tão limpo, não tinha nem nada de papel, era tudo toalha branca, e a gente saía, a mulher já limpava, enfim, né? E olha a água, gente, eu quis até levar a garrafa, mas não deu na minha mala. Muito perfeito. Você já fala, nossa, que cafonice. Pois é, mas eu sou cafona assim e pobre, nunca me hospedei nesses lugares, nem nunca entrei. Mas aí vocês vão ver mais fotos aí sobre Terra Noturna, que eu vou confirmar aqui a data de estreia e eu pretendo assistir e trazer, obviamente, a minha crítica aqui para vocês. Jodie Foster é um marco, né, do cinema. Eu aprendi a gostar de cinema vendo Silêncio dos Inocentes. Ela e o Anthony Hopkins foram incríveis naquele filme. Ela ganhou o Oscar, então tudo ali, toda a atmosfera de vê-la ela de perto, de mandar foto pro meu pai, toda essa conexão também familiar foi muito bacana. Comenta aí se vocês gostam da série, se vocês já assistiram outras temporadas, como é que tá a expectativa para essa. Espero que vocês tenham gostado do videozinho curtinho que eu fiz, mas com muito carinho. Vou ficando por aqui, agradecendo a HBO Max mais uma vez a oportunidade de participar dessa coletiva. E se você gostou desse vídeo, não esquece de deixar o seu like e de se inscrever no canal se você ainda não é inscrito. Vou ficando por aqui. Beijo, fui!